What's up, people? In this video we are going to look at this guy. I think this is Dr. Amin Ra, right? That's this guy's name. I've seen, yeah, Amin Ta. Maybe it's Amin Ta. My bad. I thought it was Amin Ra. Yeah, okay, so I forget why they asked me to do this video. Homie looks good. I've actually seen something about him before. I don't remember why, but I watched him talking. I get like kind of like a cult leader vibe from this guy. But apparently he's a vegan. I don't know if he's just like a buff, like black guy, or if he's on the sauce. Looking a little bit like it. It's hard to tell sometimes. Anyway, let's just watch this. If you guys have any other recommendations for videos or YouTubers, let me know. Leave me a comment.
Raw. He only eats one vegan meal a day. That's right, he only eats 1 hour a day, proving if you eat healthy, you will not lose muscle or lack energy. He even set a world record in deadlifting. But his goal is not bodybuilding or strength. It's anti-aging, longevity, and the highest quality of health and life. We're not telling people to eat only one meal a day, but we are here to show you what's possible with intermittent fasting and that we do not have to eat animal products in order to thrive. Only a handful of people on this planet have the determination to live this way, but it's amazing what happens when we do. Mankind is not supposed to have the health problems it does, and what we call aging is not normal. Let the wise words of this master teach, enlighten, and inspire you.
Hi, thanks for being here today.
It is my pleasure.
So, you only eat once a day.
That is so.
I saw a video of you on the internet where you were a deadlifting champion.
That is so. I'm presently the world deadlift champion, drug-free world deadlift champion in my particular class. I hold several world, national, regional records. Cyclic fasting, for instance, is known to potently promote growth hormone release. So throughout the duration of a daily fast, your growth hormone concentration tends to increase. If you combine that with resistance exercise in the evening, as you probably know, that increases testosterone production. When you sleep, that increases growth hormone production, IGF production. So we're talking about anabolic hormones that essentially promote the preservation of muscle tissue. So a regimen which entails daily cyclic fasting, evening resistance training, all of these things combine to enhance the preservation and also augmentation of muscle tissue.
So you're saying somebody who's in their 30s, 40s, and 50s can actually gain muscle?
If it is regimented, if it combines these factors,
right.
That is increased growth hormone secretion as a consequence of protracted fasting.
Now, have you noticed that working out late in the day is more beneficial than working out earlier in the day? Or does it matter?
It does matter, and that is because essentially you want to enhance autophagy throughout the day. You want to be catabolizing your proteins, you want to be catabolizing stored sugar and stored body fat. But in the evening, you actually want to suppress autophagy in order to promote that preservation of muscle tissue. So it is resistance training that stimulates your skeletal muscle, that provides those metabolic factors that promote muscle retention. So yes, evening is best to do resistance exercise.
This is actually good advice for even women that are older, postmenopausal women, because working out your muscles is part of what keeps you young.
Indeed.
You got to do weight training, even if you're an old lady. You got to work your, otherwise your bones go weak, everything starts falling apart. It's important. What you're saying is it helps keep you young. This isn't like a vanity thing. It's part of what needs to happen in your life.
Indeed. And sarcopenia, that is age-related muscle wasting, muscle loss, is a major...
Looks great. Guy looks amazing. Like, oh my god, what do I have to do to get a body like that? Like, I'm basically already doing it, what he says. Like, don't eat during the day, train at night, and eat one meal. Like, I'm already doing that, dog. Like, you're telling me you get like this from vegetables? Doubt. Okay, so what he's saying is good advice. Okay, what is he saying? Eat one meal a day. That's good. When you, what do you call it? Autophagy? Autophagy? Or is it autophagy? And everyone's just saying it wrong? I don't know, whatever, who cares? Basically, that's good advice. Don't eat during the day. Eat at night. Work out. I guess he's saying work out at night or before your meal, I'm assuming. And I guess like the reason for this is like, it's the whole like, do you need to eat right after you work out? Okay. Somebody emailed me the other day and they were like, they basically asked me like, I'm fasting now, and I'm like getting used to the fasting, and I want to start working out while I'm fasted. They're doing, I think, 48-hour fast. Can I do that? Was basically the question. And my answer was yes. You know, you can work out. Like, for example, okay, so what people think, this is like the common, I believe to be a common misconception, right? Where you think to yourself like, okay, I just worked out, I just like broke down my muscle or whatever, and now I need to eat to replenish it or to like build it back up or something like that. And if I don't eat, then my body's going to break down the muscle, and like my metabolism will go down, and blah blah blah. So like, let's say you start on like, let's say tonight you eat, right? Tomorrow you work out, and then you don't eat anything the entire day, and then the next day you also don't eat anything until nighttime. Okay, I've done that a few times, and I mean, I didn't, of course, I guess it's kind of hard to tell if you're like losing muscle after like a day or something. So, you know, is that like a super scientific answer? No, but I felt fine. I was in like a kind of a weird headspace, actually. I think I might have even worked out on both days, without really like any sort of hit to my strength. Maybe a little bit less endurance, just because I had no food in my system. But I think I was able to lift like just as much with no problem, maybe even more. But whatever, I don't know. So yeah, that's like that. I think that's why he recommends eating at night. Oh, another thing. I should have said this before, but like there's it's not a joke, but like they say that like anybody who it's a phrase like anybody who claims natty isn't natty, right? Anybody who like goes out of their way to say I'm natural and drug free and I don't do steroids without being prompted is not. You know what I mean? It's like if somebody like, so this is like wisdom from 4chan, right? Where somebody says like, they'll post a picture of their body, they're like, yeah, I've been training for 3 years, natural, never done steroids, and this is what I look like. It's like, nobody asked if you did steroids. Like, why are you mentioning that? You know what I mean? It's just kind of a tell. All right. So, okay, that's not in and of itself, that's nothing. But like the dude, and it's possible to look like that, I guess. Maybe he's just like a genetic specimen. Anyway, fuck, I'm talking too much.
Catalyst for premature mortality, especially in women.
Right? They say that the older you get, the more you lose muscle, the more you lose your hormones, the more you start slowly, basically falling apart. What you're saying is you keep working out. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case.
Yes, that is quite so. You can definitely avert many of those changes and slow down that process.
So you found that you only have to sleep half as much as the average person.
Yes, that was one of the first things that I observed. I was able to do without as much sleep as I had previously, and I was able to recuperate from exertion far more rapidly than I had been in the past. I was simply interested intellectually in the pursuit of anti-aging studies, anti-senescence studies. And as I began to discuss this with my then girlfriend approximately 20 years ago, she said, this is interesting. Caloric restriction, cyclic fasting, specific nutraceuticals, a refined diet, all of these things clearly, demonstrably, scientifically contribute to lifespan extension. And I explained how I was going to commence collecting data, writing a book, and she said, she's not my wife, by the way, Nunette Amin-Ra, why don't we do it? And it took some time to reflect on that, and I said, well, why not? And that was about a decade and a half ago. And through a few evolutions, if you will, we've been on the Amin regimen for approximately 15 years without fail. It entails a daily fast of 23 hours in duration, caloric restriction, that is, we consume approximately 1,000 to 1,500 calories a day. It entails specific nutraceuticals, that is, nutraceuticals that have been found to increase maximum lifespan in one or more organisms. It entails daily exercise. It entails meditation, ascesis. And basically, that is the Amin regimen. Qualitatively, the diet is devoid of meat and centers on specific staples, if you will. Basically, nuts, grains, tubers, dried fruit. We always eat in the evening. We consume our evening meal, our main meal, after our evening resistance regimen. Our exercise is typically organized in such a way that in the morning we engage in so-called resistance exercise, what you might call aerobics. In the afternoon, there's typically another aerobic session, time permitting. And in the evening is the resistance exercise session. And this can entail a number of different standard conventional weightlifting exercise with integrated weighted yoga postures in between sets. And after this evening resistance session is meditation, our final meditation session, because meditation is interspersed throughout the day. We meditate in 2 different postures, and one of those postures I can demonstrate to you briefly. This posture is called Aru Aha, that is the standing form. And this is the posture that I typically assume in my briefer periods of meditation, say 10 to 15 minutes. Aru Aha is a composite Egyptian term, and it means, again, standing form. The ultimate intent of all minimalist meditation is to progressively produce a state of sustained tranquility where ideas, images, emotions are expurgated from the mind. There are essentially 10 domains of...
I just figured it out. I just figured out who this guy reminds me of. You know the black guy from Stargate? Any of you guys seen the show Stargate? You know, with like the gold thing on his forehead? He talks like this. I was like, well, who does this guy sound like? And that's who he sounds like. I think... What's his name? Khalil or something? Or is that Superman? Whatever. Anyway, oh, that's Kal-El. Anyway, whatever. Okay, so I'm a nerd. Yeah, kind of like, why does this guy talk like this? It's a little... Whatever, fine. Who cares? So let's talk about like the fitness stuff, right? In the morning, he says he does aerobics. And in the evening, maybe he does another aerobic session, and then they do resistance training with integrated weighted yoga poses or yoga postures. I think that's interesting. I thought that was very interesting because when I watch this, what I'm really thinking, I'm like, how is he so jacked basically on 1,500 calories a day with no meat from only nuts, grains, tubers, Like, how is this possible? Is what I really want to know, because I want to do it. Like, sign me up, dog. Like, how do I join the cult? And I see he like works with the bow with the stick he's using. So maybe that's his aerobics, and that's good for like your shoulders, I guess, to like swing it around and shit. But I'm trying to figure that out. I'm wondering, like, is it the weighted yoga poses? Because that standing meditation, what was that going to do for you? I guess the aerobics are good. I'm not sure what those aerobics are. If it's like, like what kind of like, are you jogging, bro? Are you like doing like animal walks or something? Are those your aerobics? Or like what is this, I would like to know more. So maybe, yeah.
Interventional studies, what I call the detractors of anti-aging interventions. Several are fundamental. They include caloric restriction, cyclic fasting, and specific nutraceuticals, and a range of discrete genetic modifications that alter specific physiological phenomena in organisms. Almost all of them will entail either an increase in the optimization of autophagy, and that is simply a process that enables the body to renew its tissues. Glycation is an important phenomenon. Glycation is that process whereby circulating sugars bind to protein, lipids in the body, and render them resistant to renewal. That accelerates aging. You also have fat accumulation, or adiposity. That has been found to increase the rate of aging and limit lifespan. But more specifically, it's been found that the extirpation of adipose, the diminution of adiposity, increases maximum lifespan in mammals and other organisms.
People are looking and say, there's no way you can have that kind of muscle and not eat for 23 hours a day. I mean, I know the body's more efficient, but people are going to say, well, doesn't your body start eating up the muscle after a while?
Actually, limited muscle catabolism is a good thing. Limited tissue catabolism is a good thing. And it might be illuminating to conceive of it in this way. The vast majority of the solid component of your body consists of proteins, and each of those proteins that constitute our proteome, so to speak, have a definite lifespan, and the integrity and health of your body is largely dictated by the integrity of your individual proteins. So if you are able to prevent damage to the corpus of proteins that constitute your body, or increase the rapidity with which you renew and recycle proteins, you are functionally, physiologically younger.
There are a lot of people that say, because it used to be protein, where are you getting your protein?
What the fuck did he just say? What does that have to do with breaking down muscle? I guess what he means, like if we translate that to like actual English, like what he means is if you don't eat for 23 hours, you will break down some muscle, but that act of breaking down the muscle is somehow making your body more efficient in breaking down other stuff also and building it back up or something. I don't know. I didn't really understand that. Like, I don't know.
Nowadays, the big thing is where do you get your sugar? It's like the body needs to have sugar to run on. Sugar is the body's fuel. If you don't put sugar in your body, carbs all day long, you're gonna basically waste away. What do you say to that?
Well, there's a fascinating body of research which indicates that the process of glycation is integral to aging. And glycation is that process whereby simple sugars illicitly bind to the body's proteins and render them resistant to that process of renewal. And this has been found to greatly accelerate aging. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect is that when scientists have subjected animals to a low glycotoxin diet, that is a diet that is low in so-called advanced glycation in products, this independently increases lifespan. So you have a concomitant effect. If you reduce the endogenous generation of glycation products, and of course the best way to do that is simply to reduce your circulating sugar concentration to the lowest extent practicable, and you avoid or reduce your assimilation of exogenous advanced glycation in products, which are created upon cooking and are extant in various foods, whether cooked or not, you can increase lifespan through this avenue of glycation restriction. And this is one of those interventions that are included in the so-called detractors of anti-aging interventions, that is, glycation diminution. And this points to the fundamental importance of cyclic fasting as an avenue of lifespan prolongation, because it is cyclic fasting that most potently suppresses the concentration of circulating sugar. The lower the concentration of circulating sugar in your body, the less sugar you have to attack your body's tissues and to render them dysfunctional, if you will.
Where would you say you get your energy from if your glucose levels are kind of low?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Most individuals have an appreciable amount of energy stored in adipose. And this points to another element of the detractors of anti-aging interventions, and it's that if animals are rendered lean through either surgical extirpation of adipose tissue, targeted genetic interventions which decrease adiposity, that increases lifespan independently. So in a convoluted way, what I'm saying is that when you don't consume exogenous sugar, you make use of that stored adipose, and that extirpation of adipose independently promotes longevity.
Right, obviously you can get energy off of fat, but you don't have a lot of fat on you, so where do you get your energy from?
I like your question, because that points to the third avenue, which is autophagy. When you deplete your glycogen, largely from your liver and your skeletal muscle, and again, the morning aerobic exercise stimulates that, and you have a low content of adipose tissue, your body makes use of stored proteins. It catabolizes all of your body's proteinaceous tissues and recycles them as substrates for energy, and that autophagic induction of energy metabolism, if you will, contributes.
Who is this fucking cameraman who keeps like moving? Like, am I crazy that I notice this? Like the camera's moving like from here to here to here. why is this guy talking like this? Like, this is like, why can't you just say it normally? Like, glycation? Like, I don't know. All right, so what is he saying? Like, sugar is bad, basically, and don't eat sugar, and then your body will burn fat. Okay, thanks. Like, just save me fucking 10 minutes. All right, like, why doesn't he just ask the fucking question, like, how are you so jacked? Like, what do you know what I mean? Like, how do you look like this? You know, I know it's not from fucking, like, what workouts do you do? Like, tell me, bro. Like, were you jacked before? All this bullshit.
To lifespan prolongation by renewing proteins more rapidly. Under sustained caloric restriction or cyclic fasting, skeletal muscle is preferentially preserved, and there are more labile proteins that are catabolized before protein and before brain tissue. So these are selectively preserved.
So, okay, let's talk about your diet. So you eat a lot of nuts and, was it roots, starches, things like that?
Yes, grains.
Grains. You eat all this within an hour?
Yes, or less, yes. We have our tripartite meal, if you will. And by tripartite, I mean that the first thing we consume when we break our 23-plus hour fast is what I call the amino elixir, consisting of 3 protein sources: soy, spirulina, brewer's yeast, and ideally a dozen isolated amino acids. And the next thing we consume is the main meal, one of those staples of which I mentioned earlier. These typically include beans and rice. Typically we have one of 3 beans. Cannellini beans is my favorite, the red kidney beans. And when I say bean, this is the common bean, Phaseolus vulgaris. And there are many different cultivars. But one of the main reasons that we select the bean as an optimal staple, if you will, is because there are many properties associated with the common bean that accord with lifespan extension. And these include inhibiting the enzyme alpha-glucosidase, which promotes optimal glycemia, if you will.
Beans are full of fiber, which really helps the sugar levels in your body.
Indeed.
It helps get rid of toxins. Beans is great.
Indeed.
It's probably one of the best cooked foods you can have. If you're going to go with cooked foods, it's great. Okay, I'm sorry. Roots.
No. Yes, roots, tubers, rice, grain, and nuts and seeds. Fruit and fresh vegetation is not high on our list of staples, and that's simply because the...
Oh my god, fucking 35 minutes of this? I can't stand it. Beans are good for you. Like, I remember I listened to a podcast once, and like, it was a guy who studied civilizations. I think it was a guy who studied blue zones, and like, the podcast interviewer person, like, thank God, like, asked him at the beginning of the podcast, or maybe the end, he was like, what's one thing that, like, if they get anything from like your interview here today that you want them to know that they can do to improve their lives? Like, oh my God, thank you. And he's like, eat beans, right? And he's like, beans are like all these like cultures, they eat beans. Beans are really good for you. They're associated with a like longer lifespan, which I thought was interesting. I did start eating beans a lot more after I heard that. I eventually stopped. But apparently that's true. I have heard that beans have some anti-nutrients, but like, you know, do you really know if they have how can you test that? You know what I mean? I don't really like, I hate the way this guy talks. Like, if you're a doctor and you've studied shit, you don't need to like talk like this, right? Most doctors don't talk like this, right? This is like somebody who like wants to show how smart they are. You know what I mean? I get like, all right, so like whatever, not to like, you know, okay, so let's put it out there, right? He's like a black guy, right? And I think, as I'm not black, but obviously, I think if you're black, you have to like, you have more kind of, you have a longer way to go, right? Because people will kind of judge you, especially if you're like ripped like this guy, because you don't normally associate like a ripped like black guy with like saying, you know, scientific terms about glycation and like all this shit. So it's like, is he doing it to like compensate for that, or to like add credibility to what he's saying? I'm not saying the stuff he's saying isn't true, but like, how do you get to be this jacked from eating beans, 1,000 calories of beans once a day? I haven't tried it, so maybe that's the secret, but I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. Is he like pinning GH? I don't know what this guy's secret is. How old is he anyway? I'm curious. Yeah.
The cellulose and the water content take up space, if you will. So if you have a regimen where you're restricting your feeding to an hour or less, and you consume foods that occupy a large volume, have a high water content, indigestible fiber, over time that can reduce your sense of satiation. So you want to have nutritionally dense foods in order to essentially derive the most nutrients in a minimal amount of time.
Right, you want nutrient-dense food.
And then there is the minor meal, and the minor meal is nothing more than a dessert. Typically nuts, dried fruit, often what you might call peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, or peanut butter and nesubat sandwiches, which roughly means royal jelly. That's one of the staples of our minor meal. And I say peanut butter and jelly with some reluctance, because it differs a bit from what you might find in a typical grocery store. It's simply crudely crushed peanuts and fruit preserves on bread. That's a typical dessert. A typical dessert may also be roasted peanuts with dark chocolate.
I'm glad you said peanut butters. I love peanut butter. And everybody says peanuts are bad. It's got the toxins in it.
Aflatoxin.
Aflatoxin, yeah.
That is why roasted peanuts are actually preferential in our ethos, if you will, because if you consume raw peanuts or germinated or soaked peanuts, it promotes that growth of fungal organisms and aflatoxins. But just to give an indication of the scientific basis, there is an entire tractate with several sections that discuss multifarious epidemiological and interventional studies which find a relationship between longevity and nut consumption. And peanuts are particularly prominent in those studies. That is, it's been found that consumption of peanuts accords with lifespan. The particular variety is simply crushed, crunchy peanuts with little added salt, no other ingredients.
It's all peanut butter now. They have palm oil,
Sugar.
and the sugar and all that.
That's why I'm sometimes reluctant to call it peanut butter, because of the confusion. That is essentially the almond meal, the tripartite almond meal. Throughout the 23-hour fast, we typically consume teas and herbal infusions of various sorts. These include green tea, black tea, oolong tea, but also two of the South African teas, honeybush and red tea, or rooibos, hibiscus, one of my favorites, rhubarb tea, and any number of herbal infusions, most of which have been found to influence one of these several physiological factors that we know are operative.
Oh my God, maybe I might be losing it, because now I'm starting to enjoy the way he talks. I might actually be losing it, but like, it's so calming, you know? It's like, he's talking like a robot, right? Like, so, okay, I do a very bad job of doing this, but when it's like a common recommendation in the public speaking world. I guess this is a form of public speaking, but anyway, in the interpersonal communication world, it's a common recommendation to learn how to speak in a way that you don't have any like, you know, like all the stuff that I say basically like every 2 seconds, right? That I've been called out for many times on some of my videos. And he doesn't do any of that. He's just like, there is something that you have to eat called a peanut, and it's a very good type of nut because it's like, but now I kind of like it. I don't know what maybe I might actually be losing it. All right,
in the aging process, and those again include autophagy optimization, glycation inhibition, fat oxidation, diminution of inflammation, etc.
So when you say nutraceuticals, that sounds like something from the pharmaceutical industry. You're talking about herbs and natural things.
That's quite correct. There's several of these. One is niacin-bound chromium, another is glucosamine, another is curcumin or turmeric, another is resveratrol, and combined with cyclic or intermittent fasting, the polyphenols that you find in green tea, in blueberries, and in pomegranates. So when we speak of nutraceuticals, we're talking about these agents, and physiologically, all of these nutraceuticals have been found to modulate one of several molecular mechanisms. And again, we have our familiar glycation, autophagy induction, immune enhancement, and lipid oxidation or minimization.
And you take these throughout the day as mixed in with your teas and water and stuff?
Yes. The teas that we consume, when they are sweetened, they're sweetened with non-calorific sweeteners such as stevia, which is essentially the sole sweetener that I use during my fasting period.
Is that your stomach?
Yes, sorry.
Not at all, it's a good sign.
You're growling there. No, this is actually a good comparison here. You haven't eaten in a while, your stomach's growling. He hasn't eaten since yesterday, and he's doing fine.
I didn't use this either.
Yeah, well, that's the point.
Excellent.
That's the point.
And actually, that effect is partly attributable to a peptide called ghrelin, and it is released by the gastrointestinal tract in response to food deprivation. It actually increases the expression of a peptide called BDNF, brain-derived nerve growth factor, which increases the proliferation of neurons in the brain, specifically in the hippocampus, an area that's associated with learning and memory. And that is probably among the reasons that fasting and caloric restriction increase mental or cognitive acuity.
So this might explain people in India, they're mainly vegetarians, and they don't eat a lot, but yet they have some of the smartest people in the world. They can literally calculate to the 100th decimal point, and these people that say you need meat, you need animal products, you need fat, you need sugar, you need all that stuff to function properly, you've got it dialed into a point where you're proving you don't need any animal products.
Correct. I'm somewhat conventional in that I promote the ingestion, the use of essential multi-mineral, multivitamin.
So like I've taken all that shit that he said. Like I've taken resveratrol and fucking niacin chromium. I've never heard of that. Is that like a special type of niacin? I'm not sure. I've taken niacin. What else did he say? Curcumin. Taken that. Like okay, so I'm a little bit of like a supplement. I don't want to say an addict, but like I would routinely buy huge amounts of supplements just to try everything. Like you guys know Swanson vitamins. I've given them so much money over the years. Like I used to buy at GNC, then I bought from Swanson. I bought like a ton of nootropics from Ceretropic when they were around. Like I buy like one of these days I'll do a video. I have a fucking big plastic baggie like with all the shit that I take. And I've tried everything, right? Because I was always like looking for an edge. I was always like looking for something that would like help, like either like lean me out or, you know, help me put on more muscle faster, or just like have any sort of like beneficial effect like mentally. So the reason I bring that up is because I've taken all that shit and I eat 1 meal a day, and I do my resistance training at night sometimes, and I don't look like this guy, you know what I mean? I wish I did, like holy shit. So I'm just wondering, like what else, like when are you going to get to the like the thing that I'm not doing, I guess? How do I look like this?
Supplementation. And whenever someone subsists on a calorically restricted diet, either quantitatively restricted or temporally restricted, it's important to ensure that you get the minimal requisite amount of essential nutrients.
Right.
And that's what I get from a standard vegetal micro-minimal mineral supplement. I take that in powdered form in the almond amino elixir, and it's the first thing that we consume on an empty stomach. And that's designed essentially to be sufficient as a source of energy and nutrients without the need for any food at all. So the elixir is intended to deliver all essential nutrients in a form that is easy to assimilate, and the meals are simply for satiety and indulgence, because I think that's an important point to stress. If you're going to have a lifelong regimen that is predicated upon lifespan prolongation, it has to be sufficiently palatable in order to be sustained over a lifetime. And indulgence, gratification, is an important element of enjoying life. And we do find that our diet is very palatable, very enjoyable, even with the perceived monotony. We love dinner. Feeding time is always festive. It's always a feast, if you will. What the research indicates is that both cyclic fasting and caloric restriction greatly increase energetic efficiency, such that organisms can make do with less. All of their physiological systems become more efficient, and they're able to effectuate their physiological operations with far less energy. And that reduced energetic demand actually results in a lessened generation of those deleterious byproducts of metabolism, free radicals, for instance, advanced glycation in products. So with a reduction in metabolism, you get a concomitant reduction in waste products and other deleterious agents that damage the body.
So the less waste products that your body has to deal with, the more cleaner it is, more efficient it is.
Indeed.
Being clean is almost more important than massive amounts of fuel just being guzzled down.
Indeed. Another effect that has been observed widely on caloric restriction, cyclic fasting, and other interventions that increase lifespan is a decreased detoxification capacity, and more specifically an augmented expression of so-called phase 2 enzymes or xenobiotic enzymes. And these are enzymes that are specifically expressed in the liver, also kidney and other tissues, that essentially convert toxins in such a way that enables them to be expurgated from the body more efficiently. So this is thought to be a major factor in the lengthening of lifespan associated with fasting and caloric restriction.
So the organs that help eliminate toxins from the body, the liver, kidneys, if they're cleaner, they can focus more on producing enzymes and keeping you running optimally rather than just cleaning the house and getting rid of unwanted garbage.
Indeed. And also, as we discussed together, we are exposed to multifarious toxins that we can do little as individuals to avoid in our modern environment. So to the extent to which we can augment our detoxification capacity, we can protect ourselves from some of these toxins that would otherwise be ubiquitous, and we simply can't avoid.
Right. The toxins in the air, the water, even the negative people, it just drains us of our life force.
Indeed.
So the cleaner we are mentally, physically, and emotionally, the better we can thrive as long-living, healthy beings.
Indeed. But I must interject an element of my philosophy, and that is I wholly accept the inevitability of aging. I wholly accept the inevitability of death. And my regimen is simply predicated upon postponing that process to the greatest extent
And
practical.
having a high quality of life.
Indeed, which is what
the last 40 years, they're just falling apart.
You're so eloquent. Oh my God. I ripped on him earlier for talking like this just because nobody talks like this, and I thought it was... It's like, it's a little try hard, but so eloquent. Oh my God, what a vocabulary. Holy shit. Like, at first I was just like, all right, is like he reading a teleprompter, or like he like took some Adderall and like read the Wikipedia articles of all this shit before doing this interview? But to be able to speak at length about such a broad, I guess not a broad range of topics, but like to know all this like whatever, all this shit basically, like, and to be able to speak about it with like the actual term, like he speaks very literally, which I'm a fan of, you know what I mean? Doesn't use any like a lot of like metaphors and like bullshit language. Like he's fucking, this is like fact after fact after fact. So honestly, like I'll tell you the truth, I started watching this video completely 100% ready to call this guy like a fake and like a shyster and like whatever. But if you're able to actually like look at the message of what he's promoting, what is he saying? He's basically saying, you know, train twice a day, like do aerobics in the morning, train hard at night, eat like clean actual food. He's a vegan, I'm not crazy about that. And then eat one meal a night that's also clean natural food, that's mostly like beans and starches and shit like that. So that's pretty good, you know. And he's jacked. I would like to see more about his like workout regimen. This is like, you know, it's good, I guess. Like, you know, mix in some, I don't know what his problem with meat is. Maybe, I don't know, try raw meat maybe, or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, but like, this is, it's correct. It's like good information. I wonder if he's read the Warrior Diet. All right.
Yes.
complaining about the other people.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And it's important to have sufficient energy, mentally and physically, in order to arrive at the psychological, philosophical, existential state that you wish to attain before that ultimate end.
Right. You have a website you want to, I mean, if they say I want to know more, I want to explore, where do I go?
You can go to our website, eliteathlete.com, and it has a description of my overall regimen, the literature that I've produced, and how to acquire it. I don't sell my materials. I release them with a donation to individuals who are earnestly interested. And I stress that because our regimen is ascetic, and it's clearly not for everyone. So I'm interested in individuals who are serious.
Right, because a lot of people say, just give me something to take so I can get bigger muscles or live longer, or I can say, right, there's no quick answer. You have to, this has to be a lifestyle, a way of living and being.
An all-encompassing, lifelong protocol.
Right. So folks, a lot of this is not for most of you who want a quick fix or something. This is a dedication to a life, a way of living.
Well said.
Yeah, well, thank you for your time, and you're quite an inspiration, and hopefully we'll check in again in a while. And any last words of advice for people living in a modern world? You're kind of like ready to throw their arms in the air and say, I give up, I don't know what to do.
Subjecting yourself to self-imposed discipline is the surest way to increase the quality of your existence, period.
Great, thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Wow, what a video, huh? I'm gonna
Oh my god. I love this man. Not this guy. Who cares about him? But like, subjecting yourself to self-imposed discipline is, what did he say? Is the I kind of want to hear that again. I'm sorry.
To increase the quality of your existence, period.
Wait. Sorry.
Any last words of advice for people living in a modern world? You're kind of like ready to throw their arms in the air and say, I give up, I don't know what to do.
Subjecting yourself to self-imposed discipline is the surest way to increase the quality of your existence, period.
Subjecting yourself to self-imposed discipline is the surest way to increase the quality of your existence. Wow. Thank God. Fucking thank God somebody says that. Like, thank you. Like, eating disorder people will never watch this video, but like, I'm gonna like repeat that in every video that I ever make about these like teeny bopper girls who obviously have no discipline. But like, wow. Okay. I honestly started watching this video when I saw the what is it? Like this. I saw this. I was like, oh, I know this guy. He's a shyster, right? Fully prepared to like rail this guy's reputation for like fucking 35-minute video. Holy shit. But after watching that interview and seeing like what he's about, like I said, bottom line, train twice a day, fast, eat like natural foods, and be disciplined. Amazing, incredible. Like I said, he's a vegan, not crazy about that. Is he running like a cycle behind this? Maybe. But even if he is, like, fuck dog, like run your cycle. Thank you for the good message, right? And I guess with stuff like this, like he can't be like, you know, self-imposed discipline is the key, and also, you know, 100 milligrams of testosterone per week. You know, like that doesn't sound as good, right? People are like, oh, well, it's just that. He's only doing that, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if he is, but even if he is, like, okay, like amazing. That's why I don't understand like all this hate about people who do steroids. It's like, do you understand how much work goes into that? How much discipline you need? If somebody gave you all those steroids to do, you wouldn't look like those people. You'd look like shit. Because it's not like a magic like thing that like magically improves your life. You still have to fucking do the work. This guy, love it. Like I don't know, like he's selling a supplement. He doesn't sell his books. He gives them away on a donation. Oh my God, this guy is like, am I just totally fooled by like a shyster? I'm not sure. But if I'm fooled, this is how I want to be fooled, right? I'm fooled into believing that self-imposed discipline is good and fasting is good. Okay, fool me. Like, great, wonderful, amazing. I'm like I said, I started this video, I was fully prepared to just like talk shit, but I'm impressed. This is very good. Anyway, if you guys have any more requests for YouTubers you want me to take a look at, let me know. Leave me a comment. Peace.